What's going on? Today I'm going to talk to you guys about how you can be a motorcycle mechanic in 2023. I was a full-time motorcycle mechanic for about 4 years. I did it part-time in high school, did it full-time outside of high school, and right now I'm back to being part-time. I'm still a mechanic, just I don't work on motorcycles full-time anymore. The pros. The pros of being a motorcycle mechanic is it's a very in-demand trade. Tons of local shops and dealerships around me actually don't have enough people to work for them, nor do they have the people willing to show up every single day. But they can't really afford to fire certain people like that because they can't hire another person. It's actually not that difficult to get a job at a shop. Most local, like family-owned shops are willing to take on somebody who doesn't know 100% how to work on motorcycles. If you're willing to show up and do the grunt work, like, basic oil changes or taking out the trash or washing bikes, the stuff that they don't want to do. As a full-time mechanic, the last thing I really wanted to do was wash bikes after working, because I didn't really get paid to wash bikes, but I got paid to work on them. And when we'd have kids from high school come up and go, hey, I want to work around motorcycles, they would show up and they would just prove to us that, hey, I want to learn about this. I want to be in this field. I want to be in this trade. And they would come in, wash bikes, take the trash out, and organize toolboxes. That's exactly how I started out. I showed that I had dedication and I would show up every single day at the same time, willing to do the stuff that not everyone wanted to do off that, just so I could be around motorcycles. And if that's you, you probably found a good job. The pay. The pay is another huge benefit. The pay as a motorcycle mechanic varies depending on where you're at. Now, when I was a full-time mechanic, I was making anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a week. That was as a flat rate tech. So being a flat rate mechanic basically means that you are paid per job that you complete. You're not paid for the amount of hours that you're there. Some people might not know about flat rate. That's how most techs are paid at automotive dealerships, automotive shops, motorcycle shops. Basically, a lot of mechanics or specialized techs are paid flat rate. But the benefit of flat rate is that if you're faster than the booked time that the manual tells you that it's supposed to take, if you're faster than that, you're making more than your typical hourly rate. But as you start out, you might not be flat rate. You might not be as proficient as a mechanic to be flat rate. Most likely going to start out as an hourly rate guy. You're probably going to get paid $10, $15, $20 an hour, depending on a few things. Now, if you're like a 16-year-old kid in high school who wants to work on bikes like I was, you're probably going to start off at about $10 an hour. They're going to make you clean tools, organize the shop, wash bikes, take the trash out, things like that. As you progress, you'll end up most likely becoming a flat rate mechanic. And those rates depend on who you're working for. Like I said, my rate was $25 an hour flat rate. The amount that you make as a flat rate mechanic greatly depends on how motivated you are and your knowledge of actually working on the platforms that you're working. Another one of the pros is that it's really fun to be a motorcycle mechanic. You get to be around bikes, and if you're passionate about bikes, you're gonna love every second of it. Working at a motorcycle shop was my dream job. I would honestly still be working there if I didn't get a better opportunity to work on airplanes. It's super fun for the most part. You do have your good days and your bad days, but it's always been a great job for me. I've always loved being around motorcycles. It's fun, it's challenging, and if you're up for a challenge, if you're up for a test, being a mechanic in general is always a great option for you. Now, there are a few cons. The main problem with being a motorcycle mechanic is the slow season. Having slow seasons is depending on your area. If you're somewhere like up in Michigan or somewhere you get all 4 seasons where people just put their bikes up in the winter, it's gonna slow down a lot. Your slow season's really gonna take a toll on you. The slow season is gonna have a real effect on how much money that you personally as a mechanic get to bring in each month. As we all know, you need money to pay bills. But I've always kept a few months of pay set aside just in case it got slow. Another con, which it's not a huge deal, is the cost to get started. Initially, you're probably going to be allowed to use the owner's toolbox or a shop toolbox, but the cost of getting started really depends on what your goal is. If you are a new guy right out of high school, you're gonna need a few things. You don't want to show up empty-handed. It's understood that you're not gonna have everything. Getting started really isn't a huge issue. All you really need is a basic socket set, which you can get from Harbor Freight. You don't need Snap-on, Matco, Mac, Cornwell. You don't need that stuff immediately. Honestly, you can probably get away with being a mechanic your entire life without ever buying a tool off of the tool truck, especially in the time that we are now, where if I need a specialty tool, I can have it next day shipped to me on Amazon for the most part, or anywhere off the internet. All you're really gonna need is a socket set, metric and standard sockets, and a basic, very basic metric and standard wrench set, a couple screwdrivers, and that's really about it. Another con, and the last one on the list, you're not always gonna like what you're doing. You're not always gonna like the work. You're not gonna like changing 1,000 tires. You're not gonna like putting tubes in tires, a million oil changes. You're not gonna like working on a Japanese bike if you love Harleys. You're probably not gonna like working on a Harley if you love sport bikes. Most local family-owned shops, they're going to take in whatever they can. The fact of the matter is that you will have to do things that you're probably not gonna like to do. First couple months, maybe even the first year, you're probably not going to like it very much. But that's okay because you're working around motorcycles. And if you love motorcycles, that's a win in my book. At the end of the day, nuts and bolts are nuts and bolts. And if you have a passion for motorcycles, just go out there and chase it. I think 2023 is going to be a great year to become a motorcycle mechanic. And if you're passionate about motorcycles, I say just go for it. If you have any more questions, or if I didn't cover something in this video, please leave a comment below. That's it for this video. 2023 is going to be your year. If you want to be a mechanic, go for it.